All right, we got part two of Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz sitting down talking about the future of the XRP ledger. Are you ready? Let's get into it.
So some of you may know this is supposed to be a conversation, and my strategy has been if I just keep asking him questions, I don't have to answer questions.
But tell us about USD, Brad.
Well, it is a good segue because, as we think about decentralized finance and the critical components, we've obviously talked about some here, but having a robust on XRPL stablecoin and enabling both effective on-ramps, off-ramps, liquidity around that is obviously pivotal.
Yep.
And I think what you've seen, there's a number of successful stablecoins out there, and I think those aren't going away. But I think the market overall is likely to grow significantly. Maybe it's 150 to 170 billion USD. And some people think it'll be north of 2 trillion or more than 10x in the next 5 years. And I think Ripple has always been focused on kind of a compliance first, lots of transparency. And when you think about the things that are so critical in the success of a stablecoin, lots of transparency, compliance first, those are really important things. And I think the success Ripple has had working with financial institutions, I think sets up or RL USD or Ripple USD for success. And again, we think it helps the overall XRPL ecosystem because it just adds liquidity on Ledger. So we're excited about that. We are very close to, I think earlier today, somebody asked me for a timeline. I just said weeks, not months, because of, but we're getting there pretty quickly. And we just want to make sure we launch with kind of full regulatory oversight out of the gates to keep everybody happy.
I think
you understand why they're wanting to make sure that everything is compliant, right? Ripple deals with banks and financial institutions as their customers, right? It's not retail customers that they're dealing with. It's the banks and financial institutions. And when you're dealing with that high of caliber of money finance or money transfer companies like that, they need to make sure they can cross all their T's, dot all their I's, and they know where everything is. It has to be compliance. If you look at USDT, right? And this is not to pick on Tether, but Tether has had some issues and FUD around them not having an audit of their backing of their stablecoin, right? And so when you have $115 billion stablecoin and you can't verify the money that's supporting, right? Because let's say it came out, right? And this is, for instance, let's say it came out that Tether only has maybe $50 billion or 75 billion backing their stablecoin, right? That could collapse their stablecoin. It could be catastrophic. And the only reason to me that you would not have these proper due diligence checks on, your own is if you know something's wrong there, right? If you deep down know that your company is not doing anything wrong and that everything is compliant and you have the money to back up this, you would go out of your way to make sure that all of this stuff is done. And so you can show the industry, hey, here's all the stuff that's showing that we are compliant. Now, with Ripple, they are making sure that they're doing everything that Tether's not doing up front. So they don't have any of these, question marks because they can't have their question marks on their stablecoin when they're dealing with financial institutions and banks. Personally, what I think is going to happen here is just like Ripple built out banking software and technology and then central bank digital currency technology. And then they're building out tokenization and places that banks can hold their digital assets, right? With Medico. And now they're doing a stablecoin technology where I think you're going to have Ripple stablecoin. But I think what they're also going to do here is offer banks that same technology where banks can build their stablecoins on top of the XRP ledger, right? And have that value live on the XRP ledger, just like Ripple's stablecoins, RL USD is going to. That's where I think this is going. And I'm just using kind of Ripple's playbook and what they've done with technology before to think that, hey, this makes sense that they're going to do this. But that's why I think they're going compliance first. And I know that was a really long answer, but I hope that gave you some context in my thought process in all this.
High quality stable coins on the XRP ledger is just, we know from other platforms that when they have high quality stable coins on there, total value locked increases, transaction flow increases, liquidity increases. It's just a key enabling technology. And it's just a great example of that thing where like the stablecoin issuers are some of the most regulated entities on the planet. If you look at Circle, if you look at what the hoops Ripple's having to jump through to launch RL USD, probably nobody in this room will ever be able to do business with Ripple directly to get USD. You'll get it through exchanges because we have to go through all of these complex rules for who we can do business with. And what's interesting about that, though, is that if you look at Circle USD, which is the same thing, many of you probably have USDC, but you didn't get it from Circle. You got it from an exchange, or you got it on a decentralized exchange, or somehow. What's interesting is that you will never do business with Circle. You will never be a direct Circle customer. You will never have an account at Circle. And yet, Circle's incredibly regulated product enables huge DeFi ecosystems that are completely anonymous. I mean, there could be terrorists in them. Probably, we hope not. There could be, but they don't do business with Circle. And I think you'll see that same thing. We have real DeFi ecosystems that are enabled. Real world asset tokenization is going to be the same way. The entities that are going to issue, let's say, U.S. treasuries as tokenized, you're going to have to onboard with them and go through, know your customer and anti-money laundering. But if you put that in a pool on a DeFi system and you re-tokenize it or use it as collateral for a loan, you're going to have, this is what we mean by institutional DeFi, these institutional regulated products that on decentralized layer ones enable these DeFi use cases that are, pseudonymous and less regulated.
Well, so I think that also brings up, one of the things I don't think you could have predicted, and certainly when I joined Ripple in 2015, I couldn't have predicted, is just the growth of real world assets on chain. And obviously a stablecoin is an example of that, but we're seeing a bunch of other examples around that. And so I think one of the things that has surprised me the most in the last few years is seeing Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, publicly, this is one of the largest asset managers on the planet, publicly lean into his belief around tokenization of real world assets as a profound opportunity. And as some of you guys know, and I think certainly David and I spent time talking about, we've had a bunch of announcements on this front. Open Eden, most recently, doing the tokenization of U.S. treasuries. I think Ripple may or may not have yet publicly announced we're actually going to allocate and buy about $10 million worth of Open Eden U.S. treasuries, which will be kind of the on-chain version, if you will. But also, one of the things we announced at our last Apex, our developer conference, was a relationship with Archat. And I think he's on stage later today. Is that right? Do you know that?
No, I'm not sure.
All right. I think I'm supposed to give a plug around that. But I'm curious, any other surprises from you on real world assets, either why it's taken long or why it's happening quickly? What's your thoughts?
I think the biggest surprise for me is how quickly the major players seem to feel that this would be inevitable. They went from crypto's all a bunch of scams and it's never going to threaten TradFi, to starting to see that
lean in.
Yeah, we see polls where these institutional players believe that this is definitely going to happen. And the interesting thing about that is that means that they need to establish defensible positions. And I think that kind of segues interestingly into our play in custody with the acquisition of Medico to put ourselves in a position to, people who issue real world assets, they're not going to all want to build their own platforms and management and all that.
Well, I think that's super important. When you think about where Ripple's strategy is, how do we continue to help propel and support the XRP infrastructure? Custody is, in my opinion, something super important, not just for the XRPL, but for the industry overall. And if you believe that real world assets are going to be supported at scale, you need better and more robust and more flexible custody solutions, frankly, also at lower cost.
Yeah.
A lot of the players in the custody business, in my opinion, on the ecosystem today, some of the leading custody players are pretty expensive.
And they don't have a lot of competition.
They don't have a lot of competition. And so I think there's an opportunity, again, whether reasons why Ripple custody, and we've actually seen great traction both with the biggest of the big. I think we publicly announced HSBC as a customer there, as well as some other kind of tier one banks.
Really quickly on this. So, two things here. So the Larry Fink thing, Larry Fink is the founder of BlackRock. They have $9 trillion under management. And I played this clip multiple times on this channel that he was talking, Larry Fink was he was doing an interview and he was talking about the future of the stock market and the bond market is tokenization of those assets. And if you look at those assets, you're talking about hundreds of trillions of dollars, right? Coming on chain. And so the reason they would want to do that is because when you can do that, you can bring all that information and value on chain. It can move seamlessly. Instead of clearing, taking 2 or 3 days, it can clear instantaneously for cheap. And then they can have a really good understanding of who all owns what. And so when you're talking about the tokenization for banks, right? And banks wanting to hold crypto, that's a vital part of the future here. I personally believe that in the future, when you get a paycheck, your bank is going to send you an email or a notice saying, hey, you just got paid. Do you want to put 5% into XRP or 2% into Ethereum or 1% of your paycheck into Bitcoin? Banks are going to want to hold crypto, right? Banks are always there to find ways to make money off of the people that bank there, right? Because that's banks, what they need to do. They create loans, right? They have student borrowing, student loans, business loans, home loans. Banks want another source of income, and that could be holding crypto assets and taking a percentage every time you buy and sell those crypto assets. And banks will need a secure place to store those crypto assets if they don't want to store those assets themselves. And that's where Medico and Ripple come in.
I would love to hear your thoughts, shifting gears a little bit. One of the things we announced not too long ago was this Japan-Korea XRPL fund. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, this region has always been, for as long as I can remember, one of the major areas where there's been development, where there's been, an active community. And we decided that we wanted to have like a separate fund that was just to ensure that this area got the focus that it deserved. And there's tremendous opportunities with direct grants. There's opportunities for partnerships, support, technical support from us. And, there's a number of different ways that you can build. You can build on the EVM sidechain. It's difficult to find people with XRP ledger expertise. It's difficult to find people who understand our ecosystem specifically. So the EVM sidechain will let people build very quickly using tools that they're familiar with without having to sort of go through that steeper learning curve. But if you're new to the space and you don't have EVM expertise, the XRP ledger is a great platform to build on. It's not particularly complicated. It's different. So if you have to learn something, you can certainly build on the XRP ledger and take advantage of the opportunities that the fund's going to provide. And then, of course, if you really are interested, the XRP ledger doesn't have programmability at layer 1 yet. It's just a proposal, and it always needs new features. We're not exactly sure how we're going to support some of these more sophisticated DeFi features. Loans is, fairly new. And so there's plenty of room to contribute code and ideas. We would love to see more community participation in the evolution of the XRP ledger itself. So all of those opportunities are available.
I'll actually highlight one thing David just said that I believe we need to, as a community, continue to support and find ways to support is around the yield-bearing solutions on XRPL, which I think we've seen people toy around with. We certainly want to support those things. I think that will be a natural evolution. I took out my phone to look at, we're running overtime, and I'm sure someone's going to yell at me soon. They said no one yells at me, I promise. A couple things, though, before we leave. One is, as I mentioned at the very beginning, this is the first time we've done the XRPL zone in Seoul. This has been awesome so far. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I will give another plug. There's a happy hour in this location this evening.
All right, we don't need the plugs at the happy hour, but understanding where Ripple's vision for the XRP ledger is heading, right? There's all of these new features, and with DeFi and CeFi coming together, there's all of these new things that are coming to fruition right now in the crypto space. And Ripple is the leader in my mind for some of these solutions for banks and financial institutions, right? Those are the biggest customers on the planet. That's where you need to be focusing, in my personal opinion. I love that Ripple has not changed their thought process in where they think the adoption of XRP is going to come, right? It's great to have a retail army of people to come and support different aspects of it, but all the money is with financial institutions and banks. That's where all the money is. And so I don't want you to, I am excited, right? I'm trying to figure out how I can word this. I am excited about the future of the XRP ledger. I spend more time understanding the benefits of owning XRP than any other crypto asset. And it's the longevity hold, right? It's not right now in 2024, we are still in a speculation market. Yes, we have regulation in other parts of the world, but we do not have global regulation yet. And we do not have the biggest financial industry on the planet, which is the United States, yet fully engaged in crypto just yet. But it is coming. And now that the election is 2 days away and we have two people that are running for office that say that they are going to be a crypto-friendly president, I think that the United States won't be far behind now as far as adopting crypto assets and legislation that will slingshot the industry forward. And once the US starts to really dominate in the crypto space, it'll put stress on other countries to do the same and to take it as seriously as the US is. And now there's countries like Japan and Switzerland, Australia, Korea, all these different countries that are already ahead of the United States, the UK, the UAE, right? But once the US reaches that inflection point, everybody else will have to start paying attention. And that is really what excites me over the next few years. And when we go from a speculation market into a utility market, this is where your ISO tokens, I think, are going to perform the best. And I think these are the assets that you can hold for the rest of your life, and using those assets to pull loans off. And there's all kinds of things that you can do with your crypto assets once the utility price has been met. And I'm really excited to own XRP, to be on this journey with you, and to help you better understand what's happening in the crypto space. For that, I would appreciate it if you like, subscribe, and share the video with somebody else. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Crypto Sensei. I'll see you next time. Aloha.